In the depths of World War II, when bombs rained down and cities crumbled, there lived a small boy named Daniel. The war had taken everything from him: his parents, their home, their lives. It left him all alone, wandering the shattered streets, clutching only a worn blanket and a hollow hope. Daniel's world was a symphony of destruction, of buildings reduced to rubble, and of people reduced to despair. Hunger gnawed at his belly, thirst parched his throat, and the cold bit deep into his bones. Yet amidst the ruins, Daniel held on to a spark of defiance, a refusal to surrender to the grim fate that seemed to have befallen him. One particularly bleak afternoon, as Daniel shuffled through the debris-strewn streets, he heard a faint whimper. It was a sound so fragile, yet so forlorn, that it tugged at the deepest recesses of his young heart. He followed the sound, his steps quickening with each rustle of wind, until he saw it, a small dog, thin and scared just like him. The dog was cowering in a bombed-out doorway, its ribs showing through its matted fur, its eyes reflecting the terror of the world around it. Daniel felt an instant connection with the dog. He understood its fear, its hunger, its desperate need for solace, in a world that had turned cold and merciless. In that moment, Daniel knew he couldn't just walk away. He sat down beside the dog, offering it a piece of bread that he had salvaged from a bombed bakery. The dog, hesitantly at first, then with growing eagerness, lapped up the water that Daniel shared with it. And in that simple act of giving and receiving, a bond was forged, a silent pact of companionship and support. Daniel named the dog Shadow, for it had mirrored his own journey, slinking through the shadows of a shattered world. Together, they navigated the ruins, sharing whatever little they could find, and finding comfort in each other's presence. They slept huddled together for warmth, and Shadow's soft whimpers lulled Daniel into a semblance of peace. As weeks turned into months, Daniel and Shadow grew leaner, tougher, more attuned to the rhythms of survival. But the gnawing hunger never truly left them. One evening, watching from afar, a group of affluent families feasting in their ruined homes, Daniel had an epiphany. These families, cocooned off from the worst of the war, still had money, and what did they value more? In the face of bombs and bullets, they valued safety, warmth, and security. Daniel noticed that many of these families would throw away half their candles or soap because they couldn't finish them before they expired. A thought struck him like lightning. Why not collect these discarded remnants and sell them to these same families who would kill for a little luxury? It was a brilliant idea, simple yet effective. The next day, Daniel hit the rubble-strewn streets with renewed determination. He scoured bombed-out homes and shops, gathering discarded scraps of soap and wax candles. He scrubbed the grime off them, melted down and dried the soap, relit the candles and polished them until they gleamed faintly in the gloom. With his wares ready, he approached the wealthier families, offering them the cleaned items at a modest price. At first, they eyed him suspiciously, wary of the unaccompanied child. But once they saw the quality of his wares and the desperation in his eyes, they relented. They purchased his offerings, not just out of need, but also out of pity.
Ow.
Daniel's first foray into business was a success. It wasn't much, but he earned enough to buy a loaf of bread and a warm coat for himself and Shadow. He realized the fundamental rule of economics: meet a need and charge for it. This principle became the bedrock of his future endeavors, guiding him through the treacherous waters of war-torn economies. By the time he was 10, Daniel and Shadow were no longer mere survivors. They were budding entrepreneurs.
Ow.
Daniel expanded his repertoire of trade. He traded matches for bread, bread for old shoes, and then sold those shoes to a wealthier merchant for a higher price. Each trade was a lesson in negotiation, supply and demand, and the delicate balance of commerce. He learned to assess the worth of an item, the urgency of a buyer, and the art of making a mutually beneficial deal. Shadow, ever by Daniel's side, provided comfort and a sense of security, allowing Daniel to focus on the intricacies of his budding businesses. Their bond was unbreakable. Forged in the fires of adversity and strengthened by their shared successes, Daniel's resourcefulness didn't go unnoticed. As word spread of the intelligent kid who turned trash into treasure, people started bringing him broken or unwanted items, hoping he could turn them into something of value. Daniel, ever the opportunist, took this chance to learn and grow. He experimented with different items, learning the value of each and devising ways to make them more useful or attractive. For instance, he discovered that broken watches often had usable parts, and he began repairing them and selling them for a profit. He also noticed that people would pay extra for items that were neatly arranged or packaged well. So he started spending a bit of his profits on boxes and ribbons, which helped him sell his goods for more. This understanding of packaging and presentation was a masterstroke. As the war raged on, Daniel's network grew, and he established a system of trading and bartering that spanned across several neighborhoods, connecting people in need with those who had something to spare. His entrepreneurial spirit shone brightly, illuminating the darkest corners of the war-torn city. Despite his successes, Daniel never forgot the biting pangs of hunger or the numbing grip of cold. He set aside a portion of his earnings to help those less fortunate, leaving food and supplies at secret spots for other children hiding in the ruins. He became a beacon of hope, a symbol of resilience, proving that even in the direst of circumstances, kindness and generosity could thrive. As time marched on, Daniel noticed a new trend. Soldiers and wealthy merchants were increasingly seeking small luxuries, items that reminded them of a more civilized time. Cigarettes, perfumes, and sweets from outside the war-stricken city became highly sought-after commodities. Daniel, always keen to spot an opportunity, devised a plan. He found ways to smuggle in these desired items from black markets operating outside the city. He bribed officials, forged documents, and even hid items in secret compartments in his clothing. With the war economy booming, Daniel's business flourished. He employed other homeless children, giving them small tasks and teaching them the ropes of honest trade. He became their manager, their protector, their leader. His heart ached for the innocents lost to war, and he aimed to shield his young charges from the worst of it. His rise to prominence in the black market economy made him a target. Rival traders and jealous competitors tried to muscle in on his territory or outright steal his goods. Daniel, however, was prepared. He had learned the value of strategy and planning, and he defended his turf with a mix of wit and cunning. He bribed the corrupt, negotiated with the opportunistic, and outmaneuvered his competitors. He became known not just as the boy with the golden heart, but also as the boy with the sharp mind, the boy who outsmarted everyone. By the time the war ended, Daniel wasn't just a survivor. He was a leader, a mentor, and a local legend. He had transformed the harsh lessons of war into a thriving black market empire, proving that even in the direst of circumstances, human spirit could not only survive, but thrive. He led a ragtag band of kids, not just out of necessity, but out of a profound sense of responsibility and care. They looked up to him, not just as a leader, but as a brother. A father figure who had navigated the darkest alleys of war and emerged with a shining light of hope. Daniel's story is not just about war or survival. It's about transformation. It's about taking lemons from life and making lemonade. It's about using the resources at hand, no matter how limited, to create a better future. It's about the indomitable spirit of a child who refused to let the war break his soul. His journey is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the power of empathy, and the triumph of hope over despair.